Well, hello everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of the 518 Ambassador, a podcast of the International Center of the Capital Region. You can please follow us on our website, ICCRalbany.org. That's ICCRALBANY.org. And as well, subscribe to our newsletter there. You can also follow us on our social media accounts, our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube pages at ICCR Albany. And please make sure you subscribe to this podcast below. Please give us a like as well as a comment. Yana Chapailo will be joining us, and she has been working in international development and education for over 8 years back in Ukraine. This is her 5th experience facilitating the Open World Group and the first during the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. She is originally from Ukraine and temporarily moved back to the U.S. in August 2021 to pursue her graduate degree at the University of Maryland, College Park. The Congressional Office for International Leadership, formerly known as Open World Leadership Center, made it possible for the Ukrainian medical doctors delegation to come to the U.S. for the professional development opportunity, and she was honored to assist their staying in the U.S. So I want to thank you so much, Yana, for joining us today. And if you could please explain your experience with ICCR and the Open World programs with helping the Ukrainians.
Thank you, Fiona, for inviting me today. It was indeed a pleasure of mine and an honor to work with the Ukrainian group and to be hosted by an amazing community of upstate New York in Albany. So the idea for the COIL, or the Congressional Office for International Leadership, that's actually the only program that is funded directly by the Congress. The only program that is funded by the Congress directly is to support Ukrainian young professionals, not only Ukrainian, they work with the region, so different countries, including Moldova and Georgia and Kazakhstan, I believe, but Ukraine is the biggest program that is supported. So we have, I guess, the biggest number of participants. So the idea of this program is for Ukrainian professionals to spend 10 days in the United States in local communities. The groups are always grouped according to the topic, and our topic was the emergency responders in emergency medicine in Ukraine. So that's how the group was selected. The Open World program is a closed delegation program. So people are nominated by their superiors, by their mentors, by their supervisors. So these are best of the best from Ukraine, and that's how they were nominated to participate in the program. I myself was, my role of working with the group was to make them as comfortable as possible, to be a bridge between Ukraine and the United States. For all the members of the group, that was their first experience being in the United States. So I, as well as Holly from the American side and me from the Ukrainian side, we were working on supporting the group. Holly obviously did amazing job and way more than I could ever have done organizing the group. I was just there to support the Ukrainians and to support their staying here.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned how you were helping a lot of the Ukrainians, especially right now with what is happening over there. And I know that, Ukraine is your home country. And just if you could share your experience of what was that like, just hearing their stories and hearing about what's happening over there, just what was that like?
Well, obviously it is horrible to know what they have to go through. I mean, we are working, they are medical doctors, so they see a lot of trauma, a lot of war trauma. One of the doctors, he's a chief surgeon, pediatric surgeon, so he has to deal with the children, wounded children, civilians, who suffered from the rocket shellings, from the bombs, from shootings. Also, so since all of the doctors, they are chiefs of their emergency departments at their hospitals back in Ukraine, they all work also with the veterans and with the military combats, wounded combats. This may be a bit surprising for a lot of people in the United States, but the fact is that our medical system is overloaded, so it's not possible anymore to divide military combats separately and put them in separate hospitals and civilians in separate hospitals. The amount of wounded people is so large that all hands are on deck. Basically, all the hospitals are working to stabilize patients, to send them to central Ukraine. Two of our participants, they are from, one is from Odessa, one is from Kropyvnytsky. Kropyvnytsky is a city in the center of Ukraine, but closer to the east. So they are the second line and often are the first line of the hospitals who receive soldiers, wounded soldiers from the battlefield, and they need to stabilize them and then ship them to Ukraine, to the central and western Ukraine, because the hospitals are overloaded. So obviously it is a stressful experience. It's a horrifying experience that they are going through, that the whole nation, the whole Ukrainian nation is going through. But it was also very inspiring for me. And I think that for people who met them, who had a chance to talk to our colleagues, to our medical doctors, because you realize that, well, I've realized, and it's not that I didn't understand that before, but I guess for me, the realization of how important their work is, how often we don't value our doctors enough, how often we take for granted the medical system, the expertise, but then working with these people and realizing that they are heroes, they are saving lives. And some of these lives cannot be saved, and they are going through losses, a lot of losses, but those lives that are saved, they are giving back their husbands and wives back to their families, kids back to their parents. So that's an inspiring thing. And yeah, so I guess that wasn't only my experience working with them. I talked a lot to our host families, host communities. We were hosted by the locals of Albany. And I guess we all agreed that working with the medical doctors from Ukraine in this time is an inspiration and an honor. They are no less heroes than Ukrainians who are fighting on the battlefields.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And I just kind of want to ask, kind of like when you said about your experience in going through this, like what would you say has this experience taught you, and what would you like to take away from this experience?
Well, I guess the most important thing that among others that we all I guess realized is how important is to remind people in the United States and around the world that the war is still happening in Ukraine, and this is an unjustified war, an unprovoked war. That was never our intention to lead. We were forced to defend our nation, to defend our country. A lot of, well, obviously people are living their lives, and we cannot expect from everybody to think about the war in Ukraine all the time. But just the reminder and just the stories from people, real people who have real families, who have friends and relatives who are fighting on the battlefields, who are volunteering, who are saving the lives in medical hospitals. These stories make, I think, it more real for people that live so far away from Ukraine. I mean, there is an ocean between us, right? That's another part of the world. And yeah, it makes it real, but it also, I think, makes it understandable how the injustice that is happening right now from the country that invaded Ukraine back in 2014, but then suddenly, without any provocation, launched a full-scale invasion. And these personal stories, I guess, they didn't. They reminded our colleagues, that was our idea, that we need all the help there is, because we cannot fight this evil alone. It's not possible to fight this evil alone. On the other hand, I guess for my Ukrainian group, for the medical doctors, and we've discussed that a lot, it was inspiring for them to see the Ukrainian flags all around. They were often asking me if these are the Ukrainians living in those houses who put the Ukrainian flags outside. And I know that a lot of Americans do that. And I know that this is a very unusual thing to do for the people in the United States, to put a flag something else than the US flag outside. And this level of support, just a visual support, that you see how people are open in their support to Ukraine, that also gave our group a lot of encouragement, much needed encouragement, and much needed inspiration, because, well, they are working, that's their life, that's their everyday life. But for them to see how much support there is from general people, from just general public, from just strangers outside, who say that they stand with Ukraine and that they support Ukraine, and they are willing to pay maybe more for their gas or for their electricity, but they understand why they're doing that, because they understand that there is an evil happening right now, and this is just a small piece to pay to battle that evil. That was an output that I guess we all experienced.
Right, absolutely. And I can see how passionate you are with helping, other people and helping the Ukrainians, especially during this time. And I just do want to ask, is that how you kind of came to pursue the current career and schooling that you're in now? Is because you want to help give back to these, countries who are struggling right now?
Yes, yeah, that's the short answer is yes. Back in Ukraine, I was working on the reform for higher education for 7 years. And then I got my Fulbright. I'm here on a Fulbright scholarship and came to the United States in 2021. And so, yeah, my main idea was to, and still is, to go back to Ukraine or like work with Ukraine as much as possible to support my country, to rebuild my country. Obviously, the situation has changed dramatically. And I mean, before that, we were talking about reforming higher education. Now we're also talking about the rebuilding the campuses, rebuilding schools that were destroyed. A lot of also medical hospitals are destroyed. Russians are targeting civilian infrastructure. They're targeting schools specifically, hospitals specifically. I mean, in our conversations with the Ukrainian medical doctors, they told me all the stories from their colleagues who had to operate in bomb shelters, who a couple of their colleagues are still in captivity in Russia. They were medical doctors assisting in Mariupol at Azovstal, and they are still hostage in Russia. They have no idea if they're alive or dead, or they're like physical situation. One of the medical doctors told me that his very close friend was in Mariupol as a medical assistant, and the pediatric surgeon, he told me that he was actually talking to his friend on a phone and sending him books, like PDF electronic versions of the books for the medicine in emergency situations. How can you like do the surgery? How can you provide basic medical support to the wounded without anything, without antibiotics, without surgical equipment? So I guess for us right now, it's we kind of all realized that there is something that unites us, and this unity is like love to our country, but also understanding that there is an evil in this world, and we have to, like, since this is our, I guess, destiny to fight this evil. These people, my group and other groups who were also in the US at the same time, also from Ukraine, I guess that what unites them is this understanding that that's their responsibility and that's their goal to do that.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Yana, so much. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your story about your help with the Ukrainians. And thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast, the 518 Ambassador podcast of the International Center of the Capital Region. Thank you.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. And I also wanted to say thank you to the International Center for the Capital Region. This organization was a great host. I mean, the level of the meetings, the great hosts that we had, host families, all people who gave their week away to us, who were spending their days and nights with us. It was a huge support for the Ukrainian people. It was a great honor to be hosted. And I think some lifelong friendships and partnerships have been made during our visit to the upstate New York. That was my first experience being in Albany. I've never been there before. It's a great city with great people. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you one more time to the International Center for the Capital Region, and who made impossible possible, who somehow gathered, I don't know, dozens of people around us and make sure that the Ukrainian delegation is felt as welcomed as possible.
Absolutely. And thank you for your work in helping with the Ukrainians.
Yeah, that's what being Ukrainian now means. We are doing our best, but we do need the support that we can get. So yeah, I guess it's a teamwork.
Right. All of us need to work together in helping Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Thank you so much, Yana. And thank you for listening to the 518 Ambassador podcast.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of the 518 Ambassador, a podcast of the International Center of the Capital Region. You can please follow us on our website, ICCRalbany.org. That's ICCRALBANY.org. And as well, subscribe to our newsletter there. You can also follow us on our social media accounts, our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube pages at ICCR Albany. And please make sure you subscribe to this podcast below. Please give us a like as well as a comment.